Assalamu alaikum. This is Megan Wyatt answering your question here at About Islam. So you're in a situation where you have a long distance marriage, you've only been married a few years, and the entire time you've been married, what it sounds like based on your question is that your husband hasn't really been able to meet any of your needs or rights as a wife. Now, there may be some needs that he's meeting, I'm not sure, whether that's emotional needs from communication, phone calls, texting, and things of that nature. But in general, it sounds like you got married to someone as a second wife under the assumption that you were going to be married, you were going to be provided for, by your husband, and you also were very upfront in the beginning when you got married that you weren't going to be able to relocate to his home country of Pakistan while you live in Europe. And you didn't give the specifications of what that was, but you said that he was aware of that from the beginning. And so now you're in a situation where you're asking, when are you going to provide for me? It's been a few years. What's going on? And instead of him explaining things to you or, coming up with a very solid reason as to why he's genuinely struggling, he's blaming you, he's threatening you with divorce, saying, here, you can have, your mahr, I'll let you go, you're complaining, if you're not happy, just leave. Now, obviously, responding like this isn't going to be productive in creating a loving marriage where you have two people who experience love with each other, who are showing mercy to each other, and really coming together as a couple. You've been in a situation where you're basically begging for him to provide for you, to show up for you, and you don't want to be in that position any further, and he is, basically punishing you one way or another, even if that's just emotionally, by threatening to leave you. On the other side of that, you mentioned that you're doing your best to meet his sexual needs, even though you guys are apart, by being available to him online, doing things over the internet. So he's getting some of the things that he wants from you, and you're meeting some of his needs and rights in the best of your ability, but he's not doing the same and threatening to divorce you when you bring things up. So we have a situation where there's a bit of a power struggle, where you're doing your best to meet his needs, but he's not doing his best to meet yours. You're doing your best to ask him to step up as a man and even offer a reasonable explanation as to why it is he genuinely isn't providing for you. And, you're asking him to come forth with those things. And instead of him responding, with maturity and with grace, he's putting you down. So the question is, at this point, you've been together for a few years. You don't have a child yet. You've traveled a couple of times to see him in Pakistan. He's not able to come see you. This is a situation of the relationship. So rather than asking, is it okay for him to do this? Is it okay for him to say that? Is this fair? Is this right? My question to you is, what do you want? So whether or not someone says, this is okay, this isn't okay, even if somebody said, yeah, it's totally fine for him to not provide for you 100% in any way, shape, or form, because, hey, you're in Europe and he's in Pakistan and that's the way it is, you got into this marriage. Even let's just say for a minute, because I'm not a scholar, so I can't give you a fatwa, okay? We're not doing fatwas. From a counseling perspective, I'm going to come in and say, even if somebody said, hey, everything he said is 100% A-okay, are you okay with this being the status of your relationship? Because you have a choice. You have a right to decide what kind of a marriage that you want to be a part of, what kind of a person you want to be married to, and what kinds of things you're willing to tolerate. Islam never removes that from your right as a woman. Even if something, again, I'm repeating, even if something, let's say someone comes in and says, everything's okay, there's no problem at all with everything that he said, what you're calling his excuses are fine, they're legitimate, you still get to ask yourself, are you okay with them? Is this the kind of relationship you wanted moving forward? Is this what you expected things were going to be like? So it sounds like he made some promises to you where, he was planning to come and live with you and leave behind his first wife back in Pakistan. I'm not sure the case of the child, if he was planning to bring the child, leave the child, and it sounds like he promised to start a new life with you. Either way, a couple of years in, this doesn't look like, the situation that's going to materialize. So are you happy? Can you continue to be patient? Do you want to continue to be patient? Do you think that there is enough benefit that you're gaining in the relationship that even if he never offered you a single dime, you'd be really, really happy knowing that, there's this great, fantastic husband, across the ocean who, you're really happy with otherwise in every other way and you wouldn't want to give him up for the world? Or are you in a place right now where you're evaluating things, saying that this is a huge issue for me, I'm not able to let this go, we got married under different conditions and understanding, there were different expectations, he's not meeting my needs, I'm not happy with what he's offering, and I'm not sure I want to continue? You're allowed to make a decision either way, basically no matter which way you want to go. If he's not going to shape up and uphold his end of the bargain, you have to decide for yourself, are you willing to let that go? And if so, what is the benefit that you're going to gain? Or, what's the trade-off that you're making? If you move, for example, I know you said that right now you're not able to relocate. I'm not sure what the reason for that is, but let's just say for a minute that you could. Would you want to relocate to his country? Is that something you're happy with and you're content with? Is that something that you want to work towards? And if you did relocate, okay, does that solve the problem? Does he have the ability to provide for you in his home country? You've mentioned that he's providing in some way for his father and for his brother and of course his first wife and his child, or however many children he has. If you were to move, let's say theoretically speaking, is he able to maintain a proper and decent lifestyle for you that is one in which, again, was the expectation for when you guys got married? Or do you think that by moving, that problem's going to continue? So you've got some things you have to weigh out. And I'm sorry, I don't have like a perfect answer for you or a magical solution for you. And that's because you're in a situation where, again, you have to ask yourself, what is it that you want? What are you willing to compromise? What are you willing to let go of? What are you not willing to compromise? What are you not willing to let go of? And one thing that you can do that may help, like an exercise, is to kind of get a piece of paper and sort of, draw a line down the middle maybe, and write on one side pros and the other side you can write cons, and basically write, what are the pros of staying in the relationship? What are the cons of staying in the relationship? And then flip it over and ask yourself the question in a different way. What are the pros of staying in the relationship and what are the pros of leaving the relationship? And basically give yourself a couple of times of answering this and doing a writing exercise, and really allow your thoughts and your emotions and what's in your heart to kind of come out on paper so that things become crystal clear. So then you understand when you're talking with him, when you say, listen, if I'm going to stay in the relationship, I'm staying because of A, B, and C. However, I have some concerns because here's also what I'm trading off, or here's also what I'm losing, or here's also what I foresee is going to be potential problems down the road. Do you think we're going to be able to make this work? It can't be that he puts all of the responsibility, 110%, on your shoulders to do all the sacrificing, to let go of all the things you guys agreed upon before marriage, basically to completely change the relationship. That's not fair. There has to be some give and take from both sides, compromise from both sides, effort from both sides. So think carefully for yourself. Is this a relationship that lifts you up emotionally? Does it lift you up spiritually? Does it make you feel loved and appreciated and cherished and make you feel like you're, a solid, good person when you're in the presence of your husband in whatever capacity that's been in? Or is it a relationship that's leaving you feeling down, not feeling positive emotionally, not feeling positive on a spiritual level? And also, finally, to kind of bring in this piece, you've mentioned that in some way or another, you're engaging with him in some form of, sexual activity over the internet, in whatever way that is. I want to also ask you the question, what about your own needs as well? What is he able to do, or what is he willing to do in order to honor your sexual needs as a wife? Because as important as it is for him, it is equally important and valued that a woman's sexual needs are met in marriage according to Islam as well. So again, pros and cons, write them down, think about it clearly, and then maybe decide what is it you want and what is it that you're asking for. And I think maybe your next conversation with him will have a lot more clarity. So please email us back if you have any other follow-up thoughts or questions, and we look forward to hearing from you. And otherwise, thank you for your question. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you with the guidance that you're looking for and make things easy for you. Assalamu alaikum.